Good morning, students. Today our class is English and we will continue our first chapter unit, The Best Christmas Present in the World. Second part, it is a letter to Mr. Macpherson to his wife Connie that I will read today from textbook, and next class I will read third part of the story as well as the poem part also. Okay? Let's start our study. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. We were all standing to in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quite all about as beautiful as morning as I ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it, but the truth I am ashamed to say is the Fritz began it. Fritz here a name of a German soldier, okay, and first someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Trenches mean long deep ditches in the ground where soldiers hide from the enemy. They then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy! Happy Christmas! Tommy here is a common English name used here to refer to the British soldiers. Happy Christmas! When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, Same to you, Fritz! Same to you! I thought that would be that. We all did, but then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey greatcoat and waving a white flag. Don't shoot, lads! Lads means man. Someone shouted, and no one did. Then there was another Fritz up on the parapet, and another, Keep your hands down. I told the man, It's a trick, but it wasn't. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. It is Christmas Day, Tommy. We have snaps, we have sauces, we met you. Yes, by this time there were dozens of walking towards up across no man's land and not a rifle between them. Snaps means a German drink made from grains. Okay. What are we waiting for? And then there was not stopping them. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose, but the truth is that it never even occurred to me I should. All along their lines and ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another, grey coats, khaki coats meeting in the middle. And I was one of them. I was part of this. In the middle of the war, we were making peace. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the French officer who approached me, hand stretched, Hans Ulf. He said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it, I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. Cello means a musical instrument like a large violin. Captain Jim Macpherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in West England. Oh, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sauces, and we walked. Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. He had learned all he knew of and England from school and from the reading books in English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So, out of there, in no man's land, we talked of Bath, Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. He had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were hundreds of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. Hansulf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. Marzipan means a sweet covering on the cake made from sugar, eggs, and almonds. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Then someone, I don't know, who bought out a football. Greatcoats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew it was Tommy against Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. Hans Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. We saw it too and smiled. Jim Macpherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war, a football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widows. I would prefer cricket, I told him. Then we Thomas could be sure of winning, probably. We laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Coney Fridge won 2 goals to 1, but Hansulf generously said our goal was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. The time came, and all too soon, when the game was finished, the Snappes and the rum and the sauces had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped we would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could all go home. I think that is why every soldier wants on both sides. Handful said, take care, Jim Macpherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly. I felt he turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey coated men drifting back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugout, we heard them singing a choral and singing it quite beautifully. Choral, a dugout means a shelter for soldiers made by digging a hole in the ground and cover it. It was a stilly, natured, silent night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus of while shepherds watched. We exchanged chorals for a while and then we all fell silent. We had had our time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. Desert, dearest Connie, my Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon. I am sure of it. Your loving Jim. So here the first second part is over. Next class we will study third part of this story.